What's up, guys? In this video I'm going to give you tips and tricks to make it a little bit easier doing the Memphis Shades Cafe fairing install. My bike's a 2019 Iron 1200 NS. A lot of websites for some reason said that that fairing would not fit on my bike, but I had absolutely no problem with it. It pretty much mounted right up. So I don't know why these sites had said this, and I think that's why I haven't really been seeing a lot of it online. Yeah, YouTube like crazy. I think I found like one video for an 883, but it didn't really look, it kind of looked like someone might have done some custom work, like besides what the kit came with to make it work. So I'm making this video again just to show you what it looks like, give you some tips and tricks to help you along the way. Yeah, so let's get into it. Yeah, this is the stock fairing that came on the bike, and this is what it looks like off. So on the bike, it's got 3 mounting screws right there, and this is the bracket that goes with it. So it's pretty simple. I believe it was like, give me one sec, figure this out. Yeah, that's how it was. It was just like that. So what you're going to wind up doing, if you have an Iron 1200 with the fairing that already came on it, there's 3 screws, one there, and one here that you're going to wind up taking off. The other thing that you're going to wind up taking off is there's this bushing that sits underneath this. So let me get this right for you. There it is. So the bushing, it sits underneath this mount that mounts the fairing, and this little thread, it screws into this large bolt that holds the headlight from falling out. And this right here, I don't think you're going to need it anymore. I couldn't find room for it, and a zip tie worked just fine. This hooks on to the right-hand side fork, and it keeps the brake and throttle cable in check. With the fairing, between the fairing and the zip tie, it actually kept it from being in the way, and I'll show you once we get outside to the bike. So here's a picture of what the bike looked like before the aftermarket fairing. Yeah, it'll just kind of give you an idea whether this is something for you or not. So there's the finished product. Again, this is the 2019 Iron 1200 NS. It should be exactly the same for the 2018. I didn't really see a difference in the body. I can't speak for the 883s, but on the 1200s, if it's a later model, you don't have to relocate the turn signals. Didn't have to mess with them at all. I actually didn't even have to mess with the clutch cable. The clutch cable was already on the outside of the handlebar. In the manual, Memphis Shades recommends that you move it on the inside of the handlebar. I can't see how that would work out right. With it being there, the cable would probably bind up against the tank, and then that just doesn't sound right to me at all. So I left it on the outside of the bar. Now what I did do, and here's where a tip's going to come in, if you have this type of bike. On the 883 it might be a little bit different. This bracket right here, I wound up bending it out and then putting it underneath one of the headlight fasteners, you know, that actually holds the headlight assembly in right here. Well, there's one here and there's one over here on this side, and I had to take these off because I had that Harley fairing, well, not even a fairing, like that bra that came in, and I didn't like it. We saw it in the other video. So yeah, I actually wound up taking this and bending it and then putting it under one of these bolts, and yeah, the clutch cable's fine. You know, it's free. I can turn handlebars side to side, no problem. Now, one of the things that I did not like about the kit, it kind of pissed me off, is it's already $150 for the fairing. Okay, cool. Memphis Shades wants $150 for the damn hardware. I had to pay as much for the mounting hardware as I had to pay for the fucking fairing. And where I got pissed off about that is this rubber seal right here. I actually had to take this off of the stock bra that came with my bike, because otherwise there was going to be a wide open gap right here, and it didn't exactly, I mean, it looked okay, but it didn't look professional. You know, like if you want that clean factory look, you weren't going to get it unless you put this on. Now, if you don't have that bra, you know, because this is for the 1200s, you could probably either order it online, or maybe even like your local Ace Hardware or Home Depot, they might have it. You know, it's just like a weather seal, but I would highly recommend that you get something like that. Otherwise, you're not going to have that clean look, or at least it's not going to look like this. I mean, if you're cool with that, fine, but again, I wanted that clean look. Tips and tricks, or tips on installing this. On the other video that I saw, the only tip that I saw that I'm also going to tell you is that you want to make sure, obviously, that these two nuts are loose when you put these clamps on both sides, because you want it to line up perfectly with the fairing, you know, so it'll hook on easily. Now, what wasn't mentioned in the other videos, and I'm going to tell you about that, is right here, these two on both sides of the bike. You want to make sure that these are loose, and the reason for it is because there is a tilt adjustment where you can take the fairing and you can pull it out, or you can push it in. You want to make sure that's loose so that you can make your adjustments on the bike depending on how it is you want it to sit right, so that you don't have a big gap in the headlights. So you want to make sure those are loose. The other thing you want to make sure is loose, and I'll go over to this side of the bike. Alright, so let's see, it's really sunny, so it's kind of hard to see. Apologize. Alright, so the mounting bracket that's down there, there is a bolt on the top and there's a bolt on the bottom for both sides of this fairing. You know, there's a shot of the other side. You want to make sure that these are loose, not even snug, loose, because there's not a lot of thread there at all. And the reason why you want to make sure that's loose is because when you're seating this, right, it's not always going to line up perfectly with the headlights. So when they're loose, you can take your hand and you can push up on the fairing or pull down on it so you get it perfectly lined up with the headlight. Once you have everything just right, like everything, you are happy with it, good to go. Then what you'll do is you'll lock down your brackets first. You'll lock these down. Then you'll tighten this. And the bottom one too, on both sides, obviously both sides of the bike. And the last thing you'll do is you're gonna take a wrench. It's gonna be a bitch, I'm gonna tell you, but the top one isn't too hard to get to on both sides. You'll just take a wrench, get it in there, tighten those down. The bottom ones are what's gonna be a pain in the ass, but I'm telling you, in the long run, if you do it this way, you're gonna get that clean look and you're not gonna have like gaps in the headlight and you're not looking right. The brake and throttle cable, there was a clamp that went on the fork and that, you know, kind of held it down. I took that off, and so far I'm not really seeing an issue. You can just see it sitting right there on the fairing. I don't see it boogering the fairing up. You know, it's not scratching in any way. I'll give you an update. If I notice a difference, any damage, then I will wind up probably just taking like a zip tie, because there's already like a tie right there, just a small zip tie, and mounting it right here. But for the time being, it looks, you know, like it's just sitting there just fine, and there's not an issue, because there is, if you look in there, you can see there's a pretty decent gap. You know, it looks pretty nice. You know, it covers the speedometer decently enough. There is a pretty big improvement as far as wind. I mean, you know, if you're rocking a skid lid and you're going like 70 miles per hour on the highway, I mean, it's not going to help you there, you know, because this is just like a low pro fairing. It's kind of more for looks than anything else, but through town, like I'd say anywhere from like 55 miles and below, it makes a pretty remarkable difference. I was really impressed. You know, my only beef with this is the mounting hardware. Like I had said before, I think as expensive as this is, they should include the hardware, or the hardware certainly shouldn't be as expensive as the fairing. The only other thing I'm going to mention here with this, when you want to take this fairing off, it's not as simple as pulling this back and lifting off. Or let me rephrase that. It is that simple to take it off. When you want to put it back on, it's not going to want to fully go on right, and the reason for it is when you torque these back down again, you know, right now they're snug, they're on this. When you torque these things back down, it's not going to want to sit right. So what you're going to have to do when you want to have it put back on is just take the Allen key that came with it, or take an Allen key that'll fit it, loosen these, on both sides, and then it'll slide back in, and then you can lock it back down again. And the fairing, you know, the fairing's not going to go anywhere. This is just your tilt adjustment, so you may have to, you know, just gently press towards the bike to make sure that it doesn't come out unless you want that look. But yeah, that's about it. It was pretty straightforward, didn't take long at all. I'm impressed with it so far. Went to Revzilla, and that's where I got the equipment. You know, they hooked me up, pretty decent deal on the fairing, not the hardware, but that's not their fault. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, you know, any comments at all, like you know, something I could help you with, feel free to, you know, just leave a comment down below, and I'll try to help you any way I can. Thanks for watching.